on, guys? Welcome to another episode of King Jing Things. I am King Jing. He is Mike Barnett. And today we are basically just reviewing what we saw in the WNBA this season. Friday was the first game of the season. And it seems like we started off strong, we definitely got a bunch of storylines coming out, some spiciness between some old rivals that we will definitely dive into. But Mike, what's going on, man?
Jimmy, hello. How are you, brother? Good to be
Doing
here as
wonderful.
always. I appreciate you. Um, in one word, what did you think about the WNBA start?
Thrilling. We had some things that we sort of expected to happen. We had things that did not necessarily go the way that we thought it would. Um, and I think that sort of comes together and makes the perfect start of a sports season. Not just WNBA, but in general. You don't want to walk into a soccer season, a basketball season, a baseball season, and every single prediction that you had going into it being exactly what happens. It was not chalk. We had stuff all over the place. We had very exciting debuts of some superstars on some new teams. We had some surprising losses. I know one for sure that we didn't necessarily predict happening, but we can go ahead and dive right into it. Like I said, it started on Friday, and the first game of the season was our Atlanta Dream versus the Washington Mystics. And I feel like going into the season, we saw that the Dream were not ranked as one of the top teams, but the two of us saw the acquisitions that the Dream made this offseason, and we were like, okay, the things are brewing here in Atlanta. We might end up having a solid team here, and why not start the season off against the Washington Mystics, who I believe when we did our preview for the season, they were tied for the worst odds to win the WNBA championship. And we watched a bit of the game. The Dream were in it for a majority. Held the lead for a majority of the game, and then all of a sudden it seems like we just couldn't put things together. We fell flat, and the Mystics end up taking one off of us.
Yeah, it was tough to watch, especially going into this end of the second quarter. Like the Dream were up 10 and looked dominant, and then suddenly let the game get tied, and then thankfully we're able to go into halftime, I believe, up 5. So there was just kind of like one of those normal basketball shifts. I want to get back to what you were just saying real quick about the season actually being thrilling so far, because I actually found this game to be thrilling in a sense that we do have almost a brand new NBA season, because we talked about it in our preview. There are so many new players on new teams that it does kind of feel. I feel like you don't always get the same thing in the NBA. You might get it every 5 or 6 years, where in the WNBA right now, we're getting that time where it's like the most exciting. It's like, oh, LeBron's starting on the Lakers. Oh, Giannis next year might be on the Heat. Like some of the biggest stars in the WNBA moved this offseason, and it's going to be really fun for us to watch. So I'm really excited for that. I think thrilling was a great first word. Um, I think to give the Mystics the credit they deserve, they played a much better game than I would have expected from them. From when you see the odds of being the worst in the league to, are they going to surprise people this year? Because I think they played that way. Um, I said it in our preview show that Sonia Citron was going to win Rookie of the Year plus 1400, and I think she proved exactly why I felt the way that that was going to happen. And she's playing fantastic basketball so far. And she just was everywhere she needed to be when going down the stretch from the Dream. The Dream had 5 or 6 opportunities at the end of that game to win it and just threw the ball away. Bad turnovers. Really wasn't very fun to watch as a Dream fan. But if you were a Mystics fan and the Mystics were at home, they loved every second of it. And one thing that I have an issue with, and I'm curious on your opinion, is, well, I don't understand why Tahina Pau was not on the court for the last 3 minutes of the game. Especially because I thought she was playing well at the point. She didn't really take that many shots, but she was the only person, I'm pretty sure, on the floor outside of Brianna Jones that was actually in the positive, in the plus minus. So think it would have been helpful to have her on the court at the end. I think she was handling the ball really well to start the game, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
The two people that sort of stood out to me were her and Brianna Jones here. You know, I feel like they played the best ball that we saw, even though Alicia Gray had the better stat line. I believe, what do I have here? She put up 25, 7, and 8. So obviously she was very impactful while on the court. But it's like some of the stuff that doesn't necessarily pop up on the box score that we're looking at here. I would have kept Pau Pau in a little bit. Like we said, she took the least amount of shots out of everybody in that starting lineup, but the impact was felt there. So I don't get the idea of keeping her out on the bench, you know, during the last stretch of that game. It seemed like when she was in, you know, we were going in a positive direction, but without her there, we kind of just fell on our face, you know. So definitely disappointed from that outs that what came to be from that. Um, she also had a sick Euro step for her first
She
basket.
did.
So, you know, obviously she is a rookie. Maybe she just does not have that trust built with the team. So maybe you're going to look for a little bit more veteran leadership in that position. But I don't know, when things are going right, you know, don't change it up.
Yeah, that I agree with. And, I think there's other factors as well that happened in the game. Like Ryan Howard by no means played her best game. I would argue she played one of her worst games, and she had the most turnovers of anybody in the game, which if you go back to last season or the season before, that's not her. So it's the first game of the season. It's a 40 game season. We always talk about how in baseball or in the NBA, like seasons are too long, and 40 games is still a lot, and we have plenty of time to make up for it. And we'll obviously be watching when they play again tomorrow against the Fever in Indiana, which will be very exciting for us to watch, I'm sure. But yeah, I just you when you think about it from a perspective, and then once we talk a little bit more about the games on Sunday, I'm sure our perspective has changed. But when you think about the Mystics possibly being the worst team in the league and coming out and losing to that team, it's not very good for the confidence. But again, to the Mystics' credit, they played a lot better than I think anybody could have predicted. Now we need to see if they can keep it up.
For sure. I mean, they just shot from the field a lot better and from three. You're not expecting them to hit 50% of their threes, you know, for the rest of the year. But they did win the turnover battle 9-16. We got them on the rebounding battle, which is sort of why we went out and got Brianna Jones, why we got Brittany Griner. So if we're going to walk away from this game with anything like beneficial, our rebounding got a whole lot better compared to last year. But at this point, it's sort of just like we got to make our shots. And like you said, you want to start the season off strong when, especially when you're going up against a team that was not favored to win. I believe at the start of the game we were minus 350 favorites to win, so that was definitely a bad loss for the Atlanta Dream. And I hope that we can sort of rebound because I believe we have three games, two during the week. On Tuesday, you mentioned it. We go to Indiana and we play the Fever there. On Thursday, they come back to Atlanta and we play the Fever here. And the Fever, we have already spoken about in our preview that we sort of see them as one of the title contenders this year. And I don't know if we start off the season 0-3, like you said, one game doesn't matter. Three games certainly matter, and if you start the season 0-3, that's a bad spot to be in. So hopefully we can pick up a win in one of those games. But you know, I don't know how likely that actually is.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Fever games as like let's get a 1-1. We don't have if we win both, that's amazing and we'll feel really good. Because we realistically still scored 90 points. There are teams that did not score over 60 in this weekend. So scoring 90 points means that offensively we are moving, but it means defensively we have to be better. And I think that is something that we will step up and do. Very curious to see how we end up guarding Caitlin Clark and the Fever on Tuesday and Thursday, and what our real game plan is there, because I don't think we learned much from the Sky Fever game on what to do, and we'll get into that. But I'm excited to see where that goes, and yeah, we'll see.
For sure. We could go ahead and hit on the next game that was on Friday. It was the Lynx versus the Wings. We got to see Paige Becker's debut. Kind of a lackluster debut in my eyes. You know, she only shot 30% from the field. Her stat line was 10, 7, and 2. Just not necessarily what you want to see from your first overall pick. But obviously, stuff like this takes time. You know, you can't expect to have every rookie come in and immediately make an impact. And we know Paige Beckers. She is obviously a very talented woman, and I expect her to bounce back, but not necessarily what you want to see off the rip. You also have Fee Collier. She had a great season opening. She shot 30, or she put up 34, 4 and 4. She shot 66% from three. I don't think you can have a better season debut than that.
I understand that the Lynx are we're only 2 games into the season with the Lynx now, but between the Mystics and Sonia Citron, and then Fee Collier playing the way that she's playing, my Rookie of the Year and my MVP are looking really damn good. Uh, because I picked both of them just based on the odds that they were kind of given, and I would argue right now, especially after watching the Liberty game, the Liberty Aces game, that the Minnesota Lynx look like the best team in the WNBA. Through 2 games, I understand that it's nothing's really happened yet, but she looks unbelievable. I can't believe they, going back and watching, look as good as they do compared to how they looked last year. Again, we talked about it where last year in the first 20 games, nobody was even talking about them. And then by the end of the season, they probably could have and should have won the championship to some extent. And they're coming in this season, obviously, without the people are watching now. They know what's going to come from them, but they're playing better than they did last year right now. And that's saying something. It's not easy to do. They didn't really make any offseason moves like most of these teams did. So they're not learning to gel together. They already do gel together, and it's showing on the court right now.
I was gonna say, beyond just like implementing rookies into your lineup, you know, there wasn't much change. And like, just to compare it to the NBA, that's sort of what we're seeing with the Pacers. You know, the Pacers haven't really changed their team, or at least the core of it, over the last few years. Obviously, Pascal Siakam was added, and you could argue that he is a superstar, or at least, you know, obviously an all-star. But you know, it's the fact, like, there is a benefit for teams staying very similar over years and just building up that chemistry with one another. And I think this is the perfect example of that. There was not a single moment where the Wings seemed to be in this game. It was just pure dominance. So I'm definitely excited to see what the Lynx can do going forward for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I guess we're really not surprised that the Wings weren't involved either. Like I expect the Lynx to win over 30 games this year, no problem. I expect them to continue to be good. I expect their big matchups to be teams like the Liberty, like the Aces. And and to your point, I think we see Paige Becker's first game as lackluster, but at the same time, we talked about this, and it was the same with Caitlin Clark last year. Different speed, different game. This was her first real WNBA game. I think she held her own as strong as she could have with the team that's put around her. I think they're still, again, they are the team that's gelling. Like, I'm curious to see what they do against some of these other teams like the Mystics or the Sun when they get a chance to really flow in their game and not see arguably the best team in the league that is just knows exactly what to do when they're on the court together.
Right. Don't want to walk away from this game being like, okay, this is what the Wings are, because, like you said, they went up against arguably a top team in the WNBA. So can't walk away with okay, this is what they are, you know.
Exactly.
Um, but the final game for Friday was the LA Sparks versus the new Valkyries. Um, Kelsey Plum, she had her debut there in LA, and she put up a weekend high 37 points, 6 assists, and 2 rebounds. And obviously, she is not old by any sense. I believe she's our age, but she's been in the league for 8 years now, and she's still proving to herself and everybody watching that she's a great, formidable player that will continue to be a star in this league for years to come. I feel like she sort of got hit with a bad rap over the last couple years just due to personal stuff in her life coming out, whether it was her short marriage, whether it was the popcorn meme thing that was going on. She sort of got shit on by the internet. So I'm glad to see that, like, even a trade being traded away from a dominant team like the Aces, that might hurt your confidence in what you're doing, but it does not seem like she lost a step whatsoever.
I think the trade itself worked out well because one, she went to arguably the biggest market in the world, LA, right? And then two, she got to reunite with Dearica Hamby, so she's not on her own. And three, anybody that hates on Kelsey Plum, first of all, fuck you, because she is so funny. She's always brings such personality to interviews when she's talking, when she's doing things. Like, it's crazy to think that, it's just the world we live in. It's the social media aspect of life. Um, but for somebody like her, she always kind of comes gives off that personality of like, let me be a dog and go take care of this. And that's exactly what she did on Friday night. And it was so much fun to watch. Like you should just go back and watch the highlights of her 37 points. Like we all know she can shoot and we all know what she can do. But when you're playing with Asia Wilson, like you're kind of not expected to do that. This is realistically, I think she proved on Friday, like say what you want. Some people will disagree with this. This is going to be her team and she's going to lead from the front and let's see what happens. It was the perfect way to start it. I guess my only issue, and obviously she played on Sunday and it didn't have the same performance. I don't think you can expect that all the time. But when I'm thinking about the Valkyries, like, are they going to win a game this year? We said this in the preview show, and we were very, very. I said it just to make sure. There are no expectations, in my opinion, on that team. Nobody should be expecting them to make the playoffs, doing any of that stuff. If they do any of that, that's all a bonus. Brand new organization is so much more than just players on a court. These are all players that are learning to play with each other for the first time, but also like their front office is doing things differently. Like there's so much that's going to go into this outside of basketball that hopefully people are not expecting too much out of them. But I'm curious to see what they can turn their season into because I don't even think Friday was necessarily a negative on them. I think they're just learning to play.
You hit it on the head. There should not be any expectations. You come into the season, I think they were the other team that had the worst odds to win the championship. I feel like best case scenario for the Valkyries here is just to outplay expectations. If we sit here and assume that they are going to be the worst team in the league and they end up the second worst team, the third worst team, I feel like that's a win in their eyes. But unfortunately, with the games that they've played so far, it's not looking like that's the case. They played very bad against the Sparks. I would say they shot 25% from three. They shot 36% from the field. The one thing that they can hang their hat on is that they shot 92.3% from the free throw line. So hey, got to get those free points when you can. But sort of just it's a makeshift team. You have a bunch of random people just thrown together. They didn't have last year to work with one another. They only had this off season to obviously they're starting out 3 steps behind. So there should not be any expectations for the Valkyries this season. You want to just see a little bit of growth as the season progresses, and you typically don't see expansion teams really find their groove and like solidify themselves as a team for the first 3-4 seasons that they're a team. So uh we just got to be patient with them.
That I agree with 100%.
uh that was the last game for Friday though, and then we had another 3 games on Saturday, which I would say really got the headlines started for this WNBA season. It started off with the Liberty beating the Aces, just two powerhouses of the league. Like I feel like this is surprisingly not the game that everybody was waiting to see. There's another one that we'll kind of touch on a little bit, but Asia Wilson's doing Asia Wilson things, put up 31, 16, and 3. Obviously, it was in a loss. That wasn't enough to stop the Liberty. You had Brianna Stewart put up 25, 8, and 3. You had Natasha Cloud put up 22, 9, and 6. And the one thing that I sort of took away from this game is that you saw a lot of movement, maybe not with the main players on the Liberty, but that supporting cast compared to last year. And they are still looking like a championship contender. They look better than they did last year.
I agree with you. They're kind of it makes it feel like it's a early season crash course of a Lynx Liberty finals once again. I think the Aces are in that zone where we keep talking about, where they've brought in Jewel Lloyd. They have some new people on the team. Kelsey Plum is not there anymore. They are going to have to gel to some extent. Asia Wilson is always going to put up numbers. She's the best player in the WNBA. I've said it in the last video. I'll say it again in this video. She is the best player in the WNBA right now. Nobody needs to argue Caitlin Clark anything else. Asia Wilson's been the best player in the league for 5 years. Is what it is. Get over it. She's always going to put up those numbers. But the supporting cast around her, I don't think played their best game. But I think it's hard when you are kind of starting on that new little stretch and you're playing the past champions and they don't have much to prove. There's a little more pressure on you to prove that you deserve to be there. And I think they just had a really bad second quarter. I think they only scored 13 points in the second quarter, and then we're playing catch up the rest of the game. They had a really great third quarter to really bring it within, I believe, 4 or 5 points, and then it just lost it in the fourth quarter. So it's definitely not the last we're going to see of the Aces. I think they're going to get better. They're going to gel as a team. And the fact that the Liberty won by 14 and Sabrina Ionescu only scored 10, I believe, and she had 0 3-pointers, she gets hot. That's just more points on their end.
Right. She scored 8. She put up 8
Yeah.
points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 0 for 5 from the three-pointer. The Liberty in general look like shit shooting from three. They shot 19%, 4 for
Yes.
21, which is like it is incredible that you beat a team by 14 points while only hitting 4 3-pointers. But I feel like they're also a team that doesn't necessarily rely on the three-pointer.
Yep.
Um, but so that's obviously good to see. You're finding different ways to win, and this was another game. The Liberty were obviously favored to win here, but after that abysmal second quarter by the Aces, there was not a point where you're like, okay, the Aces are still in this. You didn't think that they were going to lose.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like Jewel is new to the team, but she didn't play well, like
Not
at
at all.
all. She was pretty bad. We know that will not be the case. She will get better. It's a whole new dynamic for her, and she's never played with the best player in the WNBA, so I'm sure she's figuring things out. But it wasn't a good first performance from her. I'm sure she would agree.
We can go ahead and move into the Mercury versus the Storm game because we wanna save our fever takes for towards the end of this podcast. But we just saw the Mercury dismantle the Storm. It was 81-59. Satu Sabali put up 27, 6 and 1. Alyssa Thomas puts up 27 and 6. This is another team that did a lot of roster overhaul this offseason. We have a new big three, and the third person in this big three, Kaylee Copper, she's not even in the lineup yet. She should be out for a few more weeks here. But the new look Mercury are looking like a solid team.
They look like dogs, dude. Sabali had 27 points in 26 minutes. Like she really towards the end of the game didn't even play and was already just dog walking the Storm. She looked incredible. Alyssa Thomas, we already know she was going to be incredible. And again, as you said, like without Kaylee Copper, like they beat a Seattle Storm team that people actually thought was going to be pretty good with Skylar Diggins being back fully healthy, ready to go. They're a pretty good team. Beating them by 22, and in my opinion, a defensive masterclass from the Mercury. They were so good on the Storm's end of the floor, just getting rebounds and absolutely punishing them to get back offensively quickly on transition. So honestly, it was a fun game to watch for a blowout, to be honest with you. I think this really puts the Mercury back where they wanted to be last year. You know, uh, it shows that they did the right thing by making the moves that they did and then bringing these players in. And once Kaylee Copper comes back, if she is playing well with those other two, look out.
They can definitely make a push for this championship. You mentioned the defensive masterclass. Yeah, the Storm only scored 59 points, but the Mercury were able to hold them to 17% shooting from the three.
Yeah, it
Like
was
that'll definitely impact the game.
their perimeter defense, their inside defense, like everything was really, really strong in this game. So maybe the Storm just aren't as good as we might have thought they were. We'll find out soon. Obviously, it's early. It's the first weekend, but if I was a Mercury fan, I'd be pretty excited today.
I'm gonna ask you, do you want to hop into the Sunday games and leave the Fever Sky game for the last game that we touch on, or do you want to go ahead and hit that?
Let's hit it because I think you and I both talked about this. We do not want to be a podcast that's focusing on Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese because we know that's where this is going. We want to focus on the WNBA as a whole because we're enjoying it and we're Dream fans. So let's go into it as if we were just doing any other game, but we obviously have more opinions than on this game than other things, and that's just the way that it is now.
Yeah, if you're covering the WNBA fairly and you want to hit everything, obviously don't want to just lead with the biggest headlines. So we wanted to wait a little bit for this, but Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese is obviously the biggest rivalry in WNBA history at this point, and they've only been in the league for a year now. You know, um, there was definitely some moments in this game that we can touch up on, but you have Caitlin Clark and the Fever winning 93 to 58. It was a masterclass by the Fever, which we both saw coming from a mile away. You see Caitlin Clark put up a triple double, 20, 10, and 10. Uh, she is now third in most triple doubles in WNBA history, and she's played a season. That is incredible. Um, you have Aaliyah Boston. She put up 19 and 13 with 5 blocks. It was a fucking block party in that game. I believe Boston put up 5 blocks. I think Caitlin Clark ended up putting up a career high of 4 blocks.
Yep.
Just between the two of them, you have 9 blocks. That was insane.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy when you have your point guard Caitlin Clark blocking the way that she was. I mean, we saw something out of Caitlin Clark this season that we didn't see once last season, and it is just the comfortability. We said it last year. She was getting more comfortable with the game. She reminded me in this game of exactly what she used to do in Iowa, where she knew it was her game and she ran everything perfectly. And she had a triple double, obviously, which I know you already said, but like that just shows exactly where her game has gone. Last year, she was just throwing up anything to shoot because that's almost what it seemed like they needed to do as a team. Like, take Caitlin Clark out of it. Let's talk about Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, Natasha Howard. They were fantastic. Tawana Bonner didn't do a ton necessarily, but she looks really good on the floor with them as the acquisition. Like, they easily could be the best team in the league. I've said that about like 4 teams now because that's just what the good teams are doing. They are playing so well against these other teams that it's making them look really strong. This was the best team performance of any team that played all weekend, in my opinion. Again, Caitlin Clark is fantastic. I understand why everybody loves her. Um, but the rest of the team, I hopefully, is getting the credit they deserve as well because they played fantastic.
For sure. You have 4 of the 5 starters all scoring double digits. Like, so you're seeing everybody out there getting involved, and that is obviously reflective of the 10 assists that Caitlin Clark was able to have. But there's obviously two teams in this game. The Chicago Sky, they just fell flat on their faces. Seemed like they couldn't get anything going. They shot 22% from three. They shot less than 30 from the field. And you sort of think that you're relying on Angel Reese in these moments. If you're saying that there is a face to the Chicago Sky, it's Angel Reese. I don't think there's any arguing with that. Uh, but a plus minus of minus 20, uh, 17 rebounds. She put up 12 points, 17 rebounds, which is a great stat line until you realize that a majority of her rebounds were coming from her own offensive rebounds in which she was missing shots and just able to grab it and put it back up. Like, I don't want to take that away from her necessarily, because that is still a part of the game. If you can put up a shot, miss it, and get your own rebound, then you're good. But that's when we start floating into the territory of, is this stat padding to an extent, or is this you just trying to do everything that you can out there to win the game?
I want to give Angel Reese a lot of credit because I think she from just the game standpoint, actually looked better in this game than she did all of last season. I think she was actually playing better. She was putting herself in better positions. Courtney Vandersloot was helping get her the ball a lot better in a couple of their different transitions. That shows that these Sky are getting better as a team, in my opinion. I will not let the score dictate what they were able to do on the court. I think they made a ton of mistakes, and the Fever were immediate to take care of that. I think their transition defense is terrible, and that needs to be worked on. And I think we can talk about Haley Van Lith. I think she played really well at the end of the game. She really gave a performance of, hey, I'm here and I'm ready to play. She showed that she was up to speed. Rebecca Allen played a really good game from the bench. Like, she kind of was the offense. I mean, she only scored 7 points, but if you go and watch the game, it felt like there was times where only she knew how to. Uh, again, it's so hard because it's the first game, and obviously beyond the game, we'll get into the controversy per se, but just from a basketball standpoint, this is, they started off strong enough that it's what you wanted to see. I think it all went downhill after we talk about what we all know is coming.
For sure. We could start out with the flagrant foul call. Uh, I feel like that was one of the two dominating headlines coming out of this weekend, unfortunately. But hey, I mean, this seems like it's the way that it's putting the WNBA's product in front of people's eyes. But it was Caitlin Clark's flagrant foul on Angel Reese. When you watch that back, do you see that as like a weak call? Do you see it as a basketball play? Did you see like any malicious intent in that? Because personally, I didn't. I think just with the two of these teams, tempers are just going to flare every single time when they meet, so there's going to be a little bit more aggressive plays that we see. But I don't know. I think it was a bit of a weak call.
I think a lot of flagrant ones are weak calls. So this is, let's go into the NBA. Let's talk about in the WNBA. Like, I feel like a lot of times what gets looked into as a flagrant one can be a weak call in the first place. Obviously, we know a flagrant two is an ejection. So a flagrant one is more like there was intent here, but we're not getting rid of you. Where I think there was intent in a harder foul was the fact that Angel Reese two-hand pushed off, and then Caitlin Clark went and did a very regular take foul. But she did it a little bit harder because she probably just watched her teammate get pushed. If you take this out of being Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, this is not a conversation. That is exactly what's happening here. But they are so polarizing because this has been happening since college now. Angel Reese has put her hand in Caitlin Clark's face, has been all over Caitlin Clark, putting up the I won the ring, I won the championship. She sure did. She's right. Caitlin Clark has not really made much of a rebuttal over time. Uh, in reality, both of them have put themselves in this position, but more Angel Reese. Angel Reese has multiple times said that she's happy to be the villain in this case. She said that from her own mouth. So anybody that thinks that's being a made up thought, she said it. So it is what it is. I've been a pretty staunch Angel Reese supporter as well as a Caitlin Clark supporter because I don't think it really needs to go either way. That's just social media shit. That's a media push. I don't think either of these two actually hate each other as much as people put out there. They played in the All-Star game last year. They played just fine together. But I think there's a little bit of history? Absolutely. Do I think Angel Reese hates hearing how much people love Caitlin Clark? Absolutely. But I do think she's a part of the reason that happens, and that's something she'll have to get over. I know a lot of people were upset. Like, I was a little like, when she, in her press conference, got asked a question about, do you still see yourself as the face? Like you said about you and Caitlin Clark. And then she said, next question. I'm like, you're just defeating yourself. If you want to play the villain, either play the villain hardcore and answer the question and fuck it, come out and be the bad guy. Like, that's totally okay. I think it is better for the WNBA. You're getting ratings. Like, I do agree when she like gets upset and says they're watching the WNBA just as much for me as for her. Unfortunately, I just don't think they're watching it for the same reason. That's the problem. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because the more people watching the WNBA means the more money they're going to get later, the more agreements they're going to get in collective bargaining and all of that good stuff. This is all so good for the sport, regardless of if the foul was a flagrant or not. Sorry, I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but I agree that it's a flagrant one, but of course I think it's soft because I think most of them are soft.
Yeah, you make a point where, she did come out and say, yes, I would like to be the villain in this, and you sort of can't play it both sides. You can't be like, yeah, embrace the hate, but also, back down when certain media questions are asked. I sort of compare it to a she's almost like a Dennis Rodman, where I know that her rebounding and the other parts of her game are what we should be paying attention to, not necessarily the offensive output that she is putting up. And like we said, she obviously put up 12 points, which is probably solid for her. It's more about what she can do on grabbing the rebounds. Um, if you don't look at Angel Reese as if she is supposed to be a Michael Jordan, as if she was supposed to be an Anthony Edwards, just like a very offensively minded, both sides of the ball sort of player. We are looking at what she is good at. Don't just tear her down for what she is bad at. Unfortunately, one of the things that she is bad at is evidently being a villain in this. I think if she stays the course, what is really bringing more eyes to the product right now is this rivalry between the two of them, And if you play your cards right, you're going to be in this league for a very long time. You're going to be notorious in this league for a very long time, and you're going to get paid by this league for a very long time. It shouldn't be seen as a slight if people are saying, yeah, we are coming to watch the WNBA because of what Caitlin Clark is doing. She's revolutionizing this. We are seeing more eyes on the product than we ever have before. But that doesn't mean that the other people here aren't included. AJ Wilson, we've already said it. She is going to put up stats no matter what. She is an outstanding basketball player. She is the best basketball player in the league right now. Um, but we don't really see any complaints from her about Caitlin Clark. I feel like these two are just tied at the hip because of the college experience that they had going against each other, because of the season that they had this past season. But that being said, just stay with the course, be the villain, accept the hate, and things are going to go well for you. Now, we will draw the line at racism. We don't want that. There's been a lot of stuff that we've seen online, and I will say, like, you want to condemn racism. You want to condemn hate. You want to condemn discrimination, but it's about determining whether this is real hate coming at you, or if it's just the trolls that you see on social media, on Twitter, which sort of it happens in every single sport. If you have a bad game, you are going to get dogged on. You are going to get piled up on. It's about drawing the line of, okay, is this just, banter happening on the internet, or is this real live shit happening when you step off of the court? When like, are you getting death threats? Are you getting nasty messages in your inbox? Obviously, we got to draw a line somewhere. But I don't know. I know Angel Reese ended up declining to make a comment about this, which is probably the best move that you can make in this situation. But I know the league came out as a whole and had to say, yeah, we condemn this sort of behavior. There's no place in this in our league or in our society.
People on social media are blowing this up to be this big fucking thing. This is a regular basketball play. We have seen basketball plays like this become a flagrant in the NBA so many times for people going back and forth over something like that because it was the intention behind it. I think she went for a harder foul intentionally, not because she hates Angel Reese, not because of anything outside of basketball. She saw her teammate get pushed, went and made a hard foul. It could have been anybody on any team, and I bet Caitlin Clark does the exact same thing. And we've seen her do it in the past at Iowa for her teammates against other teams that have no Angel Reese on there. So it doesn't matter. It's such a basketball play. It's always a basketball play, and it's just blown up because it's them two. It's like Magic versus Bird, literally. I saw somebody say that today. I found that very interesting. It's like it's not a white versus black thing. It's like Caitlin Clark happens to be white, Angel Reese happens to be black, and so people are making that a thing. But it's the same people that don't ever watch the WNBA in the first place, and are just trying to build a narrative and the social media trolls, and then they see something, and then people get upset because nobody should be talking bad about anybody for anything that they've done from a race standpoint. Period. That needs to end. Also, hot take: anybody that's reaching out to athletes over like bets or something that's happening on social media, you are such a fucking loser, giant pussy bitch.
Weird
Go
behavior.
fuck yourself. What the hell do you think they care to see your message come across that you are showing them that, oh, wow, they didn't get a 10th rebound. I'm going to let them know. You are such a loser if you do that. I hope you know that. Please, I hope this goes viral because what a dumb thing you can do. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care what happens. I'm talking about for every single sport in the world. If you lose your bet, you suck at picking. Like, fuck off. It is what it is. Like, I get heated in moments like this because this is taking away from the product that the WNBA is trying to put on, and it's just the Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese controversy when there was a lot of great basketball played this weekend, and they deserve to be talked about too.
Yeah, let's go ahead and shift away from the negativity that was brought upon the league this weekend. Just to finish off the Sky Fever game, uh, the defensive improvements that we saw from the Fever with the additions of Natasha Howard, with the additions of Dewana Bonner and Sydney Colson. Last year at the end of the season, they were the second to last rated defensive team. And they were able to hold the Sky to, like I said, 29% shooting. And like we already mentioned, the Fever were having an absolute block party. So I think that was like the biggest takeaway from this weekend is how well defensively the Fever have improved. And now they are looking like a legitimate title contender.
Absolutely.
Um, and just to go ahead and round us all up here, we had two games on Sunday. The latter game was the Lynx versus the Sparks. The Lynx pick up their second win of the season. You sort of touched on it a little bit at the beginning. Kelsey Plum should not be expected to put up 30 something points every single weekend or every single game that they play. She put up 18, 5, and 2, which is not the most stellar like line that you could possibly have, but she still shot 33% from three. She's shot, 33% from the field, which isn't great, but like we said, you can't expect greatness every single time that she steps onto the court. And at least for a little bit in this game, it seemed like they were holding on to their own, but the Lynx are just too good. You have Fee put up 23, 1 and 6. You have what's her name? Elena Smith. She had a solid game as well. She put up 18, 3 and 3, 2 blocks. Just a solid game by the Lynx again.
Yeah, I mean, they're 2 games in. Again, so much time left. They're the best basketball team to me. And I really want to emphasize it now that I've seen them play the Sparks, because I just think they are doing everything correct and they're just playing the best team basketball. Like, if they should be leading the odds in my opinion in championship. If not the Liberty, it should be them, no doubt in my mind. Especially after the way they've played these last 2 games. And to talk more about the Sparks, like Kelsey Plum, she played fine. She went to a much harder defensive matchup in this game, especially because of the way the Lynx played defense in the first place. But Dearica Hamby had a great game. She scored 20 points, was 6 for 11 from the field, 10 rebounds, which is great. So, stuff like that. Like they're still gelling as a team. And you're talking about a Sparks team that still does not have Cameron Brink, and you have to assume she's going to make that team better when she comes back in the next few weeks. So I don't think they're going to hold their head over losing to the Lynx, and I don't think the Lynx are going to take their foot off the gas because they look great.
For sure. And then to wrap up the weekend, and sort of the team that I wanted to highlight, we already touched up on them. The Mystics beat the Sun 90-85. the Mystics, they have already proven us wrong. Like we said, was supposed to be the worst team in the league coming into the season. Both of their rookies, we've already talked about Sonia Citron a little bit. In this game, she put up 15, 3, and 1. Didn't have as good of a game as she did in the first game, but still very impactful in general. Uh, but I believe she was the third overall pick. Kiki Ariafen,
Kiki.
or she's the fourth pick overall. I'm sorry, but she's having a solid debut as well for the Mystics. She put up 17 and 14. She was a +4 on the box and the plus minus. Probably a little bit too many fouls than we would like to see, but again, very very young. You're obviously still learning the pace of the NBA versus or the WNBA versus the college game. Brittany Sykes, she is balling. What did she have? A combined 49 points across the two games that they played. Just phenomenal ball being played in Washington right now. And is it time to sort of look at this team, look at the expectations that they were supposed to have coming into the season, and sort of expand on that a little bit, or are we just chalking it up as they played the Sun, they weren't supposed to be a good team. They played the Dream, they weren't projected to be a great team. Are they just taking advantage of the worst teams that they're playing right now, or is this something a little bit more?
I think that's a good question. I think it's too easy, too hard to tell. It's too early, 2 games in, because I'd like to see the Dream play their second game and kind of see how they play, because I do think they're going to bounce back. Again, I think they played better offensively than they did defensively in that game, and so I'm curious to see what they're able to do against the Fever. If they get blown out by the Fever, then I think we'll have a better answer. We kind of knew the Sun weren't going to be good. I projected the Sun to be the worst team in the league, not counting the Valkyries. And that's probably going to end up boding true, in my opinion, unfortunately. But Tina Charles had a really good game, and she's a great basketball player. So I'm curious to see what she continues to do throughout the season. I think they're just a team that's gelling and so brand new. And realistically, they kind of just blew up their whole team. So part of me doesn't really feel like there's any expectations from them. But putting up 85 when some of the other teams didn't even get to 60, is that saying something about the Mystics defense, or is that saying more about their offense? Let's find out in a week. Sonia Citron, again, we already did talk about her, but she played 24 minutes, had 15 points. And again, when she's on the floor, she's commanding the floor to those players. And it's really helped Brittany Sykes actually be a better player. So if I had to lean one way or the other right now, I would say 60-40. The Mystics are actually just playing good basketball. It's not based on who they've played. That's where I would lean. Ask me again next week when we do this.
Yeah, if we just want to preview some of the upcoming matches, just because we are with the Mystics right now. Wednesday, the Mystics play the Valkyries in Golden State. So, if what we have seen the past two games from them is true, we should see a win there. On Friday, they end up going up against the Aces. Obviously, have had a slow start, but we expect them to bounce back, and then they end the weekend playing the Mercury. So they have a little bit of a test here coming up in this upcoming week. They have 3 games to play. We mentioned it up at the top of the show that the Fever and the Dream match up twice this week. On Tuesday, they're playing in Indiana. On Thursday, they play in Atlanta. We sort of mentioned it already that the Dream have to win at least one of these games. We can't start the season 0-3. What is the likelihood here that we see them pick up at least one win against the Fever?
I think the Fever, with all of the stuff that's gone on in the first game, they had a huge game. I think they win again in Indiana, but I think once they come to Atlanta, they'll slow down a little bit. I would say there's a 35% chance the Dream win on Thursday in Atlanta, which isn't very high, but realistically, I think they will win that game, which doesn't sound like it because I gave them under 50% chance, but uh, I know hopefully myself will be there if possible. I'm still looking at tickets; they're just stupid expensive. But if it works out, I'd love to be there, and I think the Atlanta fans will bring the house up ready to go. Though I'm sure there'll be plenty of Caitlin Clark fans too, so we'll see. But um, if we can split it 1-1, we're in good shape.
I'd agree. And then we have the Storm and the Wings both looking to bounce back as they play tonight. They're playing in Dallas. Hopefully, we see a little bit from Paige Beckers that we sort of missed out on when they opened the season. Um, and then on Wednesday, yeah, we already mentioned it. The Mystics play the Valkyries. So can they keep their season rolling and start off 3-0? I think that's the best case scenario that they can have here. Um, and if they do that, they're probably already outperforming what we sort of expected to see from them coming into the season.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. I think it was a great first week for the WNBA, from the sense of it was fiery all around. Like even in the Aces Liberty game, even in the Mercury game, like we are seeing players that want to make the game physical. You could almost argue, in my opinion, this is a hot take, that the WNBA is more physical than the NBA right now. The way that they are going at each other and playing ball, and the refs are letting them play a little bit more outside of the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese battle. These girls want to win basketball games. They are fighting over the basket. We have probably the most big women that can actually perform inside that we've ever had in the game. It's actually really fun to watch. So for those that are just looking for updates, sit down and watch a game. I think you would be surprised with the product put in front of you, and have some fun because it's been great to watch so far this week.
Before we hop off of here, I did want to run it by you. Uh, you've mentioned a couple of hot takes already, but if you could walk away from this weekend and what you saw, what is your hottest take?
Oh. I I guess it's really not it's not a hot take to me, but I think it would be to most people. I think again, the Lynx are the number one team so far in the season. I think they'll continue to prove that they are playing the best as a team. And if I was going to pick a champion right now who I thought would win, it would be them, bar none. Even though the Liberty did exactly what they needed to do against the Aces, something about the Lynx, man. I'm on the train.
I think I'd agree with you at that point, though. I do think the Fever and the Liberty are right there. I think we have a solid top three teams right now at the top. Um, I'd probably put my money on the Fever as of right now, uh, just because of the improvements that we've seen with them already. But you can't you know count anything against you by going out on the limb and saying the Lynx because Nafisa Collier has probably been the best player that we have seen just based off of the weekend. It's been 3 games.
Yeah.
We can't really decide anything at this point, but it's a hot take for a reason.
Well, one thing I'm
Uh,
super curious about is, as the Fever continue to play, is how does Caitlin Clark react in a game where it's close? Is she gonna take the Steph Curry route? I mean, she had a triple double, but it was really never close, right? So, as they get later in games, they obviously want the ball in her hand, but is it always going to work out? Like, how are they going to treat this with the way that they played this past weekend? They played really good team basketball. I'm curious to see if that continues with Caitlin Clark at the end of games when they're really close, because I do think that's a part of her game that will be really important. Like, we've all watched Steph Curry. That's what we think of when we think Caitlin Clark. But in moments when he didn't make his best shots, they lost games. Is that going to happen this season? Because I don't know that she is in a position, or feels like she's in a position where she's willing to give up the ball in moments where she needs to. She could prove me wrong in the next few weeks, but we will see.
yep, I agree. We did talk about how their roster has looked a little bit more defensively oriented, but they still have the key pieces to, be able to put up the stats. If it gets to become like a close game, like they have the Natasha Howard now, they have Aaliyah Boston now. So she has people that she can turn to, but you're right. It will have to probably be a Steph Curry superstar takeover, and that's just something that we haven't necessarily seen from her yet, but I do think it's in her bag. So uh, when that does happen, don't be surprised.
Exactly.
But Mike, appreciate you hopping on, talking some NBA or WNBA women's hoops with us here. Uh, Obviously, this is something that we'll continue to come back for. Uh, Maybe at this point, our WNBA preview was one of our best performing videos that we've put up so far. So if this continues to happen, we'll definitely make this like a weekly occurrence. I do like the whole weekend recap type vibe that we're doing with this. So maybe Mondays will be our WNBA day.
Yeah, I think that would be perfect. And I think it kind of goes well with our, with watching our fantasy teams as well. And we can talk about what we see. It's helping us follow along like it does with all the other sports that we watch. So it's been really exciting. I'm enjoying watching. I'm glad that I got League Pass, so I have access to all the games and it's not breaking my bank. So hopefully one day it does break my bank because the WNBA is big enough to do that. But yeah, it's just fun to talk about. It's fun to watch, and I'm looking forward to these Monday sessions because I think we have a lot to talk about, and the season's going to be fun.
Oh, we've mentioned it before. I think we're in the renaissance of the WNBA right now, just where things are really about to start popping off. We'll probably see a couple new expansion teams pop up in the next couple of years, and we will start to see this league at least maybe not rival the NBA, but they will make their rise, and it might be like an MLS level of support and of viewership that we've been seeing, which would be a huge step in the right direction. Um, but yeah, if you guys like what you've seen today, go ahead, hit a like, throw us a subscribe, comment down below and tell us where we're wrong. Do you think the Lynx are actually the best team in the league? Are the Fever going to continue this sort of dominance? Tell me if Angel Reese is better than Caitlin Clark in your eyes. Come argue with us in the comments. But we will see you guys next time. Peace.